going to dive right into this next panel to keep things moving along. Thank you so much, and I want to thank the panelists. I'm going to ask them to go down the line just in a second to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about what they do, what their lives are like. But I think it's kind of interesting on that last panel, you saw folks sort of start off the panel talking about really kicking the tires on properties, figuring out how an individual property works, and all the nuts and bolts of that, and then you ended up with some of these deep policy conversations about what's going on Capitol Hill and some of the key questions there. It sort of gives you a little bit of a sense of the range of topics that we get to deal with in this industry. Our last panel was a bunch of really seasoned real estate pros. We're now going to have a little bit of perspective from folks who are a little fresher to the industry. So nothing against the last panel. But as we go along, I think if we hear just a little bit about sort of who you are, how you got into the industry, where you work, that'd be great. So start right here.
Hi everyone, my name is PROKUNINA. I work with Patty at Wells Fargo in the Multifamily Capital Group. I graduated Georgetown in 2012. I majored in finance, and then I did an internship at Wells in the multifamily group between junior and senior year, and then I came back after I graduated. So I've been with Wells about a year and a couple months. I started July, and I work as an underwriting analyst. So when a deal comes in, and a very excited originator brings it in, and then we are sort of the people that see it when it goes through the whole, risk evaluation process and the underwriting process. So I get assigned to, it's a team of an underwriter and I, and we kind of work through it and we do the whole everything underwriting. We go inspect the property. We finalize all the numbers, and so I kind of get to work with that every day, and I'm sure we'll talk more about day-to-day stuff later.
Hello everybody, my name's Amanda Gross, and I'm the market research analyst at HFF. I did my undergraduate at Emory University, and I graduated in 2010 with a finance degree. To a lot of your questions, I did a summer internship in investment banking. I did a summer internship in sales and trading. And then for my first 2 years out of college, I worked in New York in working in private banking and asset management. None of those were related to real estate. And then about a little over a year ago, I moved down to DC and started working at HFF, which is a capital markets intermediary firm. So we help developers and owners source debt for their development projects, for refinancing an existing product. We work on office buildings, multifamily, all types of real estate, and then we also help companies sell their projects. So we help to either sell a development site or sell an existing building.
I'm John Cunningham. I work at Red Capital Group, an assistant VP. I work in the originations analyst side. I manage or co-manage the analysts that do the front-end analysis of potential deals. And then Jay, who's an originator, after reviewing the analyst's work, I go work with the originator, structure the deals, and tell folks like Jay why what they're suggesting is non-feasible and completely disconnected to reality.
Well, first off, Jamie, I couldn't help but notice you had my title up there as Assistant Vice President. It's actually Vice President, but not a big deal. Just thought I'd throw it out there for those keeping score at home. My name's Jay Healy. I work for BERKADIA Commercial Mortgage. We are a capital provider and one of the largest servicers of commercial mortgages in the country. We are a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD-approved lender. We're also one of the largest apartment sales and research firms with the recent acquisition of Hendrickson Partners, so we're excited about that. Specifically, I work in our seniors housing and healthcare group, where we specialize in financing nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and independent living facilities. I focus on HUD-insured loans, but we also offer Fannie, Freddie, as well as our own proprietary bridge program. My role within the group is loan originator, so I'm responsible for sourcing the new deals, guiding them through underwriting, and then ultimately making sure they close. So in that sense, I'm pretty much involved in all aspects of the deal from start to finish.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clarence Watson. I work at BPC, Berkeley Point Capital. You just heard from our CEO, Jeff Day, earlier, so I won't go into all of what we do because you've already heard that. At BPC, I work in the Special Asset Management Group. Now, what does that mean? Well, basically, once the deal has been researched, once the deal has been, originated, researched, structured, and then once it goes bad, that's when it comes to me. So I know everyone's familiar with the 2008 financial crisis and the credit crunch. Basically, most folks in special asset management were extremely busy at that point. And basically, our job is to mitigate risks, mitigate losses when it's possible. And that's pretty much what I do at Berkeley Point Capital.
And it's neat. We've got people who are doing lots of different aspects of sort of the food chain. In terms of the day-to-day, so that's sort of some of the big picture day-to-day, anyone want to talk about sort of what your day-to-day might look like? Is there a typical day? Amanda, you want to kick off with that?
Sure. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but there definitely is not a typical day in the life of an analyst or someone in finance. So my job as a market research analyst at HFF is to kind of help understand why a deal is a good deal, why someone would want to acquire that building, or why a lender should lend against that building. So for example, a deal that we recently completed a financing, we helped with the financing of a development project, an apartment building on 14th Street. So obviously a very up and coming neighborhood. I actually live around there. There's a lot of new buildings coming up, so my job was really to help the lenders understand, is it already overbuilt? Are there going to be too many competitive projects? Are they not going to be able to achieve the rents that they're looking for? So the job of the analyst at HFF is really to help sell the product. So our product is really a sales product. So the day-to-day that I kind of do is a lot of research, so a lot of understanding, how many buildings are there, how much capital is there out there, who really wants to lend against this type of building. We have a lot of client meetings, and one of the things that drew me to real estate specifically out of just working in finance at a bank was the opportunity to really interact with all of the type of real estate professionals in the market. So I have daily meetings with developers, I have meetings with lenders, I have meetings with owners, with both the analysts that work there up to the CEO level. And so for me, it's a mix of working in Excel all day, doing online research, writing, and really talking on the phone to all different types of real estate professionals. So what I like best about my job is that you don't do the same thing every day.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Usually I'm typically rolling around 9:30. I'll take the side entrance so my boss doesn't see me coming by his office. But once I get in there and get established, like we said earlier, I mean, just like there are no two deals in real estate that are exactly the same, there are no 2 days that are exactly the same for me. I can come in and get on the phone with a zoning officer from Westminster, Colorado to talk about a building that's a non-conforming use, to then getting on the phone with an appraiser to calmly explain to him why his cap rate needs to be about half a percentage point lower than where he's showing us. And then, maybe we'll get on the phone with the client and talk about a $50 million acquisition deal, or an engineer to talk about a underground storage tank. So each deal has its own set of issues that require, a unique set of solutions. So there really are no two similar days, at least for what I'm doing.
And as with the previous panel, if there are any questions, that you've got a great set of folks here as resources to find out more. So take a pause. Yeah.
Yes, it's an internship. So there's many different types of real estate jobs. So in real estate finance, a lot of the hours, at least at the junior level, are going to be, at least in my experience, pretty comparable to a lot of the investment banking jobs. A lot of the differences are that in investment banking, it's not always a face-to-face relationship. So it doesn't really matter if the analyst is doing the work at 3 in the morning, because you're not on the phone presenting it to a client at 3 in the morning. That's when you're working on it. My job, I might be working late, but you're always doing the presentations during the day. So as much as as much as you might make the comparison in terms of hours, yes, there's many real estate jobs that are going to have a lot of hours, but there's many real estate jobs that are not. It also depends on how quickly you want to move up in your company. So I really wouldn't focus on the hours, I would focus on how long it takes you to really understand things and to move up. So I really think that real estate has one of the best balances in terms of being able to really teach you things and really have a work-life balance.
And Clarence, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. If I could jump in for a second. Actually, my route to real estate was a little bit circuitous in the sense that I initially started off in investment banking, working in public finance, basically structuring deals for cities, municipalities, state authorities, and the hours were extremely long. When you're competing with all the other banks on the street, everybody's looking for a deal. It's basically you eat what you kill. And so you can imagine the type of aggressive nature you have to have with that, and that obviously means long hours. As the other panelists said, also in real estate, you can also have long hours. And as our previous panelist said, the skills that you'll get in both real estate and investment banking are transferable. If you have an analytical mind, you're more than sure to do well in real estate, and they are transferable. I've found in working in both areas that the hours are a little bit less in what I do, but again, that's the nature of the beast in the sense that the market is somewhat rebounded. We're not where we once were in 2010 or 2009, where basically where the delinquency rates are jumping to historical highs, and you got 5 to 10 deals coming in every single day. So it's completely different, but now the hours are nice, relative to what they once were.
I might ask Senia, in terms of career development, so have you gotten a sense that there are certain paths of career development, that there are different opportunities out there? Talk a little bit about that.
So I can start off by saying kind of what I do day to day. So I work as an underwriting analyst. I work together with an underwriter. So that would be kind of the next logical step for somebody in my sort of trajectory. So as an analyst, you kind of assist with the deal. You get to learn a lot about, and this also comes with volunteering to do more things than you're necessarily assigned. Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? Can I go out on the site inspection with you? And so I think that's really something that I'm excited about happening in the future, is that you kind of get your deal, and some underwriters are more specialized. Some underwriters will do more affordable housing. Others will do more like seniors and like Alzheimer's care housing. So you really kind of get your specialty, and you really kind of can run with the deal, and oftentimes there'll be complex issues that you need to overcome. So that's what I'm really excited about learning about in my field, is really kind of stepping into that role where I can kind of single-handedly underwrite a deal. So I do that by helping review all the third-party reports that we get. As was mentioned, you'll get an engineering report, an environmental report, you'll get an appraisal report, you get a zoning report. It's a lot of lingo that's really specific to those reports. So when you first come in, I'm like, what is an underground storage tank, and why does everyone seem to be screaming about there being one? So you sort of kind of get to learn those things. I think it's really cool that a lot of people I've met have been really forthcoming and sort of letting me in, and can I do some work for you? Yeah, nice people. But really kind of giving me the opportunity to learn and taking the time to sit me down and what is a Fannie Mae and why do we care about it? Well, this is why, because coming in, I was a finance major. I didn't really know that much about real estate, and there's a lot of really, really specific things. So I think that's what I'm really excited about, kind of learning about and sort of moving on and getting more exposure to it and sort of specialized product.
John, any others?
I've only been at RED for 3 years, so I can't speak much to the broader industry. I know at RED, a lot of the senior people and mid-rank people have moved up very quickly. And they moved up quickly because they're smart, they're dedicated, and they put in the hours, and they add value. I've certainly moved up faster than I would have ever dreamed, but that's just RED, which is the best company in the world. And I defer more to the more experienced folk on industry-wide progression.
Actually, I do have a question for the individual that asked earlier. What is your main concern? Is it that, are you wanting less hours, or? I mean, because in all honesty, it kind of goes back to what Jeff was saying earlier. I mean, what turns you on? And is it going to be in a situation where, you know, you love crunching numbers and you don't mind working late nights? Then, in all honesty, it could be either or. It could be, you know, it could be investment banking, or it could be still real estate. It just matters where you want to, what area you want to fall into. I'd say real estate. That's what I would say.
And so to that point, sort of thinking about there are opportunities to put in work, and there are opportunities to be noticed for that and recognized for that. So I see a lot of head nodding there.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is the natural progression is generally from analyst to underwriter, and then if you want to get into sales, you can go into origination. But first and foremost, I think the most important thing is to establish proficiency in whatever role you're assigned. But then secondly, don't be afraid to raise your hand and volunteer and get involved in issues that are beyond your scope. You know, that does two things. One, it increases your knowledge base, and at the same time, it's showing management that you're just not content to work within a box or within the confines of your role. But obviously, I say that after you've, you know, managed to establish some proficiency in what you do, and then, you know, take it a step further. And, you know, people love to see that. And at some point, you know, they're going to target you as someone who needs to be fast-tracked. I remember when I first started, I didn't have, you know, the ability to go out there and sell our loan products, but what I did have was a limited network of contacts. So what I would do is I would talk to some of the more established originators, help set up meetings that ultimately led to new business for the company. So from upper management's perspective, I don't think there's anything that they like to see more than a young associate or analyst who's willing to go out of their way to, you know, to help generate revenue for the company. So don't be afraid to look beyond your role.
To that, actually, so I've had a couple of really positive experiences, both with clients, originators, and underwriters, where we kind of form a little team, and next time, so we're very transaction-based. A new deal comes in, and, you know, it gets assigned to a team, and we work on it, and we're pretty much done. Now, if a client comes back, great. And we obviously try to build those relationships. So for me, it's been really positive where I have, you know, a relationship with a client or with my underwriter, and I can sort of show them that I want to go, you know, the extra mile for them, and I really want to kind of put in the work, because also I can learn a lot from them. There's all kinds of different clients, whether it be, you know, a mom and pop that own a couple of properties, or whether it be somebody like Prudential. You know, they're very different animals, and you can learn different things from them. But I've had really positive experiences where I can say, oh, I'm really interested in hearing how your business operates, or can I help you with this or that? And I think, you know, I've only been at Wells about a year, so I can't really speak about, you know, giant leaps and promotions. But, you know, I think that's kind of been that trust given to me. And next time that client comes in, I get assigned to that deal, or it's really rewarding to have an originator or underwriter say, we did really well last time, or we worked really well as a team, let's work together again. And I think that's kind of almost more beneficial than a promotion at this point, because we're so, I mean, I'm not going to jump very high in the first year, I don't think. So it's kind of that really sort of, you did well and keep doing what you're doing, which I think is really rewarding.
Any other questions? Yeah.
What do you find are your biggest challenges and struggles?
Anyone want to take that one on? Challenge, struggle.
I don't know about the others here, but I know in investment banking, or everyone here knows about investment banking. You get that really rigorous training at the beginning. At Red, we didn't have that. You're learning as you go. And so it's on you to not just learn how things are done at the company, but gain that product knowledge. Because whether you're going to go into underwriting or originations, You know, if you're in originations, you need to know all the products you're selling. It's along with the personal relationships, what can distinguish you. In underwriting, you're not going to be able to properly mitigate risk if you don't know everything about the products. And the people above, the chief Fannie Mae underwriters, they'll notice whether you know what you're doing or not. So, you know, that's tough. Are you going to go the extra mile, learn how to do it, or are you going to sort of sit back?
Yeah, for me, I'm 29, but some might argue that I look closer to 20 or 21. So the challenge for me has been when you do get these meetings set up with clients is that, you know, they take you seriously as a younger originator. And I think to go on what you were just saying is it's product knowledge. I mean, they don't care if you're 60 or 20. If you can sit down and you can talk to them and understand their business and understand our products and where we can fit in together and make it work, that makes all the difference in the world. So it's been a challenge initially, but you know, once you're able to get a few deals going, it just kind of snowballs from there.
Oh, go ahead. Is it sort of that those first couple of years, it's like a fire hose with all this new information, all these new things to learn, you're getting, but then you get them. And
it's a lot to absorb, and that's why I think my background as an analyst and an underwriter really served me well, because, you know, ultimately you don't want to be a guy who's just out there as a sales professional, you know, who can say, well, I can't answer that, but let me get a technical guy, you know, and we'll get back to you. You got to really be able to encompass everything. So I would recommend, you know, taking that track where you go from analyst to underwriter and really understanding those program types before you try and get out there and sell it on your own, because at the end of the day, it's your reputation out there. So you definitely don't want to put yourself out there before you're ready.
If I could, I'd probably say some of my challenges have been, at least in the special asset management group, in particular loss mitigation, is the culmination of all your skill sets. So if you're, you know, analytically driven, you understand the deal. But you also have to put on, you know, your social cap in a sense, and have a high social IQ in the sense that if you're dealing with a borrower who may be unsophisticated, you already see the path that he or she is going down, you know, a dead end. And you have to be, I guess, sensitive enough to both their ego, if you will, as well as your role as a lender to ensure that you can kind of guide them the right way. Because sometimes you can already see where the touchdown, I mean, how to get to touchdown, but they don't. And so it's being able to, you know, guide them in the right direction without assuming any real liability for telling them what to do. You kind of have to help them arrive at your decision. And that can be tricky. But at the same time, though, as the other panelists have said, you have to be right. You have to be right. Because again, ultimately, it's the lender's collateral that you're trying to protect, as well as the relationship. So it's the marriage of those two, protecting the collateral and protecting the relationship. But you can't do that unless you understand the deal.
any other questions? I want to give you guys the chance to answer the question the earlier panel had too. Coolest thing you got to do this year professionally? Anyone want to throw something out there? Order late night food in the office, you know.
Sure. Okay, so everyone here at Georgetown is probably familiar with the Washington Harbor. In the wintertime, it's the ice skating rink. In the summertime, it's the fountains and the restaurants and the boats. So I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. So my company helped to sell and finance that entire complex, the retail and office portion of it this year. We sold it to a U.S. investor that was supported financially by a group of Korean investors. So it was a very interesting process, and I guess the coolest part for me of that process is really understanding the intricacies of the entire building, including getting engaged in the building complex, in the building fountain, and having probably all of Korea hear about it. So that was cool.
That ranks up there, yeah. Anyone else want to dive in on that one?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that was a high bar.
Actually. But I did have a great opportunity this year. Earlier this year, a top originator who's also been a mentor to me, find a mentor when you get a job, definitely find a mentor, started talking to a hotshot young developer who was planning this beautiful, I mean really, class A+++ development, waterfront property, buildings designed by one of the top international architects, beautiful loft apartment units, just the best place to live ever. But from a financing perspective, it was sort of the opposite. We knew off the bat, just from the first conversation, that this was going to be really complex and that winning the business was going to be really tough because it was an enormous deal. Well, I was very, very lucky when he came to me and said, hey, John, this is a long shot, but it's something we got to pursue, and I'm going to hand you the majority of the responsibility for dealing with the client and structuring the deal. Well, we moved forward, and it seemed as if every week it was getting more complex. I mean, we were dealing with, items would come up, oh, we've never underwritten something like this, or, oh, this isn't eligible for financing. We've never done anything like this. And so I went to some underwriters. I said, well, can you help me out? And they said, no, because we can't do this. But I was told by my this originator early on, you need to find solutions. This is a solution-based business. It's not about saying no to deals. It's about finding what works and minimizing risk to your acceptable risk profile. Well, so while these underwriters are telling me, no, I'm not going to help you figure out an answer because we won't do it, the client, great guy, really smart guy, turns out to be a little bit stubborn and capricious. He's a hotshot developer. What do you expect? Well, we figure out solutions to all the problems that were apparently insoluble, and somehow are able to keep his interest for 9 months. And last week, he rewarded our efforts with a loan app, which I know you probably know how great this feels, but it was my first opportunity to really take the lead on that loan, and best feeling ever, honestly.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about what were some of the skills that helped you get into the real estate industry? Because some of you didn't have the real estate background and knowledge before.
Anyone want, the question is sort of, were there particular skills that helped get into the real estate industry? Clarence, you want to?
And not to be flippant, but I would say at sessions like this. I remember reading an article once in the Post, and it was talking about real estate and just, in particular, in all honesty, the lack of diversity within the industry. And one particular individual who was, a veteran in the industry said that, well, you tend to hire people that people that are in your circle. And so I'm looking out, and there's an extremely diverse group here. And so basically all of your classmates are, or rather should be, a part of your network. One thing I would like to say though too is that I graduated a little bit earlier than most, a little bit earlier than most of the folks here on the panel, this panel, not the one previously, but this panel. But you have at your fingertips, I think, something that we definitely did, that I didn't have, and that's social media. That's LinkedIn. Didn't have that when I was in school. So in all honesty, I mean, personally, if I were in your shoes, being present at sessions like this, but also looking for folks in real estate and making them a part of your social network. And then if they do, maybe they can sit down with you for a couple of minutes over coffee if they're in the area. If not, maybe they will take a call. But just like everything else in life, you have to be aggressive. And again, I would say being aggressive in sessions like this.
I would definitely agree with that, because when I was in college, I took real estate classes, but there was no companies coming to campus and recruiting for real estate. So I joined a bank and worked with 10 of my best friends because they come to campus and they recruit everyone there, and it was kind of the easy route. And then I find myself 2 years later, I'm in New York City working until midnight every night, and I want to work in real estate in Washington, D.C. So the only way I was able to get here was through networking. So I had a bunch of peers who now worked in real estate or worked in D.C., and I used my university's alumni database, and I actually had an alumni that became my mentor and was on the board of the Commercial Real Estate Women's Network in D.C. and set me up with interviews here, and now my now boss was on the board with her at the time and said, I have this great woman that I know who's trying to get into the industry, and I know you were talking to me about how there's no other females at your company, in your office, and I really think you should get in contact with her. So really building your network, especially in real estate, is a lot of the times the way to get the job.
And actually, we're going to close up this panel. You can find everyone here right after this last panel up at the reception and job fair we're going to have at the end in just about 20 minutes. But I think round of applause for these.